Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be talking about triggers, the different types of triggers for your automated actions, and making sure that your trigger is triggering properly. So let's go ahead and hop in and get those triggers triggering. To do that, we'll want to get into our automated actions here, and then we're going to want to duplicate this tab and close out of Studio so that then we can try our trigger, see if it gives us what we want. So I've already set up a few things. You'll have to wait till the end of the video to see how to do this, but we're going to step through each type to see how this works. And before we go any further, I want to show you something. So we have the model here, and when we go to triggers, there are certain triggers available to us. But if I change this model to account, some of those triggers went away. Now this is new for ODOO 17. It's something where they've given us quite a few options here. Some of these are pre-built triggers in a way. So you have to be careful and make sure that the trigger that you want is available on the model you're in. Now don't be worried, because really these values updated fields are just a duplicate of this on save down here in custom. So even if we don't see exactly what we want up here, we can create it again in on save without too much difficulty. The first trigger we're looking at is user is set. Okay, so we're going to name this action real quick, testing. Go ahead and save it. User is set. So what this means is there's a user ID on most records, and it's different things for different records. So for the sales, it's salesperson. So we come in here and we can say, okay, I'm going to set Mitchell admin. You see nothing happened yet, and that's because this is based on when we save the record. So if I save it, you'll see it was triggered. So we know what we're doing there. The next trigger we're going to look at is tag is added. So essentially we're saying if we add a tag and save this tag specifically, product, we want to trigger this action. So let's save and look at this real quick. So the tags are right here. We're going to go ahead and throw in product, and then we're going to save. And you see it triggered again. The last in the values updated section is state is set to. So we're going to go ahead and say if the state is set to canceled, do this. So we're going to save this. We're going to go out here, okay? And right now we're in a sales order, but if we cancel this, you'll see it's going to trigger our action here. So cancel that, and we've got this triggered. So once again, we were successful. So let's talk real quick about our email events. So this says email events, but it's really tied to our chatter. So let's go ahead and illustrate this with an outgoing message. So we've got an outgoing message. We're going to go to our sales, and we're going to send a message, and we're going to say, what the heck? Because we're honestly pretty irate about something. So go ahead and click send. This is an outgoing message. And once again, we were successful. This was triggered. We can do the same sort of thing with an incoming message, but yet again, it needs to hit right here in the chatter to trigger it. Let's go ahead and look at our timing conditions. So we can base this on a date field on our record. So we could say the delivery date, and we could say how many hours after, which we can go -20 to do hours before, or obviously any other negative number. And we can do the same thing for days or months. This based on date field is a little bit more difficult to test whether the trigger is working or not. Generally, we have to wait to get that time frame right and then see if our action's working. That being said, we can test our code with another one of the triggers, make sure that the code is good at least, and then wait and see if the trigger is working appropriately. Our next item here is after creation. So we can say, I want this action to kick off however many minutes or hours, days, or months after creation. Again, this one's a little bit more difficult to test, but I would encourage you to get the code right and then go from there. The last one here is going to be after last update. So again, our delay can be set based off of minutes, hours, days, and months, and then we can go ahead and have our action run at that time. To test this, we need to let it run again, make sure we're good with our code, but then let it run and see if it's doing what we want it to do. Now let's go on to our custom ones here. Now OnSave, to me, is probably the most useful one out of all of these, right? It's basically saying when something changes and it's saved, so we can say when updating our delivery point address or say our salesperson, okay? When this is updated, when we save an update to this, we're going to execute this action. We can do a ton with this. So let's go ahead and save. Now let's test our trigger. We're going to change our salesperson. Go ahead and save. You can see it's triggered here. We can also go to on deletion. So we can have a warning or something else that happens when we delete this. So we're going to go ahead and cancel this. Okay. Go ahead and cancel that. And go, and we're going to delete this. Delete it. And we've got it triggered again. Last one in this group is on a UI change. Now this one is interesting because this is essentially saying immediately when you change this, not after a save or anything else, immediately when you change this, do this. So we're going to do this on salesperson again. Oh, spelled that wrong. Salesperson again. We're going to go ahead and save this. And going into here, if I change this from John Doe to something else, Mitchell admin, it's going to pop that up immediately. Okay, so you can do some handy stuff with that. Okay, so we're on to our last trigger, which is webhooks. It's an ODOO 17 exclusive. I think this will be super useful once you guys know how to use it. There's a ton of stuff you can do with this. So the webhook, this is huge because it allows us to communicate with other systems outside of ODOO in a very robust manner. What we're doing right here is saying if something gets sent to this URL, we're going to trigger an action. There's a ton you can do with this. And we're not going to go into it right now, but we will in a later video. So we've gone through each of the triggers and we've shown that they work the way that we're talking about, with some limited exceptions. But how exactly did we show that they worked? Well, that's the trick I promised to show you, so let's do that real quick. So it all comes down to this little piece of code that I love to use. So if we go into this execute code, we're using execute code, and what we have here is raise user error, and then we're able to pass a message here. So this stops the code and raises a message for us. You would have seen this triggered over and over as we're going through the video. But what this allows us to do is make sure that our trigger is working by passing us a message. That way we know, hey, the trigger's working. It's a problem in the code if something's not happening the way we expect it to. This is a great way for us to look at our automated actions and see piece by piece which section isn't working if our action isn't doing what we expect it to. So if you're not sure if this trigger is going to work the way you want it to, put in this piece of code and try and see if you can get that message to pop up before you do anything else. So there you go. That's triggers and automated actions, explaining how they work, and really more importantly, how you can make sure that they are working. So next time we're going to go over the domains for these triggers, basically making it so that the action doesn't always run. It only runs when it meets these specific conditions. So go ahead and tune in for that. Look forward to seeing you again. Thanks.